Before we begin, stop and answer this with brutal honesty. How many minutes today did you truly live as the version of you who already has the life you want? Not dream about it, not beg for it, not make a vision in your head for 5 quiet minutes and then forget it. Actually live from it, speak from it, react from it, move from it. Because that answer explains almost everything. It explains why some changes came fast and others stayed frozen. It explains why one desire moved and another one still feels locked in place. Most people touch the state for a moment, then spend the rest of the day returning to doubt, fear, facts, memory, and old identity. And then they ask why nothing shifts. Stay with me because this changes tonight. If you understand what I am about to show you, you will stop treating manifestation like a small nightly exercise and start seeing it as a full-day identity. That is where everything turns. That is where the power is. And if you can catch this deeply, not just hear it, but really catch it, you will never look at your thoughts, reactions, and daily routine the same way again. Let me start with the truth most people miss. Your consciousness does not switch on only when you sit down to do a method. It is always working. It is active while you brush your teeth, while you scroll your phone, while you answer messages, while you sit in traffic, while you worry over lunch, while you stare at the ceiling at night. It never stops. It is always taking your dominant attitude, your repeated inner reactions, your familiar way of being, and shaping your outer life through that pattern. So you are not manifesting only when you visualize. You're manifesting while you complain. You're manifesting while you compare yourself. You're manifesting while you replay old pain. You're manifesting while you think maybe one day. That is why this matters so much. The question is not, do you know the method? The real question is, what are you being most of the day? What state owns you when you are not trying? What identity do you fall back into when no one is watching, when you are tired, when life pokes at your wounds, when the day gets loud? Because that pattern, not your occasional effort, is what usually wins. And if that sounds intense, good, it should. Because once you see this clearly, you stop blaming time, luck, and outside conditions, and you finally begin to work where the real power has always been. Most people give their desired life one beautiful hour and give the old reality the other 23. They feel it strongly at night. They imagine the relationship, the money, the freedom, the health, the success. For a little while, it feels real. Their chest softens. Their mind settles. They almost become the person who already has it. Then morning comes, the phone lights up, the bank balance appears, the silence from one person feels heavy. The body gives an old signal. The job still looks the same, and in a few minutes, sometimes in a few seconds, the old identity takes the seat again. Just like that, they are back in the known state, back in wanting, back in waiting, back in measuring the world by what is visible. Then they say, I did everything right. Why is nothing happening? But look closely. The old story got fed all day. The new story got a short visit. Of course, the stronger habit keeps showing up. This is not punishment. This is not life being unfair. This is simply what happens when a person briefly visits a new state but still lives in the old one. And if you really understand this, you stop searching for some magical extra technique. You realize the deeper work is not doing 1 hour better. It is living differently in all the small in-between moments. There is something I want you to notice very carefully. You have a default state. Everyone does. This is the inner place your mind returns to when you stop trying to control it. 2. It is your mental home base. It is the mood, identity, and assumption that feels most normal to you without effort. For many people, that default state is not peace. It is not certainty. It is not fulfillment. It is worry, lack, pressure, loneliness, delay, or struggle, dressed up as realism. It is old, emotional muscle memory. It is years of repeated thoughts turned into a resting position. Think of it like a stretched band. During practice, you pull yourself into the desired state. You feel rich, chosen, secure, loved, successful, free. But the moment your focus weakens, your mind snaps back to its old center. That snapback is what people keep calling losing the feeling. But the real issue is not the drift. The real issue is where the center still lives. And the goal is not to force the stretch harder every night. The goal is to move the center itself, to make the new state so familiar that when your attention relaxes, you naturally fall into already having not into not yet. This part matters more than most people realize, because once the center moves, your life begins to change without so much strain. Then you are no longer trying to hold a state, you are living from who you have become. Now let's talk about the morning, because this is where many people lose the whole day before the day even starts. Right after waking, there is a small window where the mind is soft. The old identity has not fully rushed back in yet. That first half minute, that first minute is more valuable than most people know. But what do? They grab the phone, they check notifications, they look at news, bills, messages, deadlines, silence, and numbers. They let the outer world tell them who they are before they have chosen it for themselves. And from that moment, the day begins under the old command. So do this instead. When you wake up, do not move too fast. Do not rush to the world. For 60 seconds, just settle into the version of you who already has what you want. Do not force a scene if it feels heavy. Simply feel the identity. Let it cover you quietly. Let it be natural. Let it be simple. This is who I am now. That is enough. And then get out of bed as that person. Not as someone trying to become them. Not as someone chasing. As them. That difference changes everything. When you walk into the kitchen as someone who already is fulfilled, your body carries it. The way you stand changes. The way you breathe changes. The way you answer the day changes. It is subtle, but it is powerful. Do this daily. No drama. No skipping because you are tired. No waiting for the perfect mood. Just 60 seconds every morning. Done consistently, that tiny doorway begins to rebuild your whole inner foundation. Then there is the inner conversation. The one thing shaping your state almost every hour, whether you notice it or not. You are talking to yourself all day. Quietly, constantly, even now. There is a voice commenting, comparing, judging, guessing, remembering, predicting, and often limiting. And for many people, that voice sounds normal because it has been there so long. It says, I can't afford that. Why does this always happen to me? Nothing changes. I always get ignored. I am behind. It is too late. Maybe it works for other people, not for me. Listen carefully. Every one of those lines is not just a thought, it is an identity statement. It is a state being occupied in real time. So, while one part of you spends a little time imagining the wish fulfilled, another part of you spends the entire day quietly arguing for the old life. Can you see why the outer world keeps echoing that? The solution is not to shout empty phrases all day until you feel fake. The solution is to gently retrain the inner voice so it speaks from the new self. When you see something expensive, instead of I can't, think that is available to me. When something delays, instead of it never works, think this is still moving in my favor. When you feel alone, instead of no one chooses me, think I am deeply valued and connected. Simple, clean, real. This is not pretending the world has no problems. This is choosing not to let old language keep building old walls around your future. And yes, in the beginning, this takes attention. You will catch the old inner talk many times a day. Good. That does not mean you are failing. It means you're finally becoming aware. Awareness is progress. Awareness is power. The person who notices the old pattern is already no longer fully trapped inside it. So do not panic when you drift. Do not turn correction into another form of self-attack. Just return. That return is the work. That quiet shift back is the training. If you want a simple structure, use this. Set a reminder every 2 hours. When it goes off, pause for 10 seconds and ask, what state am I in right now? Not what happened today, not why am I like this, just what state am I in? Am I living as the person who already has it? Or am I back in wanting, fearing, chasing, checking, doubting? If you are in the right state, deepen it for a breath. If you drifted, just come back. No guilt. No speech, no long reset ritual, just back. This is one of those small practices that looks too simple until you do it for a week and realize your whole day starts to change. Stay with this because this is where momentum builds. Soon you begin catching yourself before the reminder. Then the new state stops feeling like something you are trying to remember and starts feeling like the way you naturally think. But now we come to the hardest part. The moment that reveals whether your assumption is shallow or deep. contradictory evidence. The bill comes, the message does not, the number drops. The test says something you did not want to hear. The old situation looks louder than ever. And suddenly fear rises fast. That old identity rushes forward and says, see, nothing changed. You were fooling yourselves. This is the exact place where many people lose ground. They do not lose it because something bad appeared. They lose it because they let appearance decide identity. Understand this clearly. What is in front of you now is not always proof of your current state. Much of it is the fading result of old patterns. It is old data still moving through visible form. It is yesterday's assumptions wearing today's clothes. If your inner state has truly begun to change, the outer world may still need a little time to catch up. So when the opposite appears, you do not need to deny it and you do not need to collapse before it. You can see it without surrendering to it. You can say, this is old. I am not going back. That one decision, made in the heat of contradiction, is more powerful than 100 easy moments when nothing challenges you. Because in that moment, you are choosing your inner truth over visible delay. You are showing your consciousness what you now accept as real. And that steadiness builds a kind of inner authority the old story cannot keep defeating forever. This does not mean becoming cold, fake, or disconnected from life. It does not mean smiling when you need to handle a real problem. Pay the bill if the bill is there. Go to the doctor if the body needs support. Have the hard conversation if it must be had. Take wise action. But do not mix wise action with inner surrender. Do not let action become emotional agreement with the old state. There is a difference between dealing with a fact and becoming it. A person can handle a temporary problem while still remaining rooted in the identity of being supported, chosen, healthy, prosperous, and secure. That is maturity in this work, not escape, not denial, inner leadership. If you can learn this, your life starts to feel different even before the results fully land. You stop feeling tossed around by every message, every delay, every silence, every number, every mood, every passing shadow. You begin to carry your state into the storm instead of waiting for a storm-free day before you feel stable. And that changes how you move through the world. People notice it, opportunities notice it, your decisions improve, your energy becomes less scattered. Even your face softens because you are no longer asking the world every 5 minutes for permission to feel whole. That is a huge shift. And many big outer changes begin there, quietly, before they become obvious. As the day moves on, another powerful step is to stop acting like your desire belongs only to special moments. Too many people think the state exists only during meditation, only during a scene before sleep, only when music is playing and the mood is perfect. But the real transformation happens in ordinary moments, while making coffee, while answering emails, while walking into a room, while waiting in line, while hearing someone else's good news, while dealing with a delay. Can you remain yourself there? Can you think from fulfillment in a normal afternoon? Can you carry the identity into the grocery store, into traffic, into a family conversation, into a slow Tuesday when nothing dramatic is happening? That is where the state becomes real. Start asking through the day, if it were already done, how would I walk through this moment? Not in a fake performance, not in some exaggerated act, just in a clean inner way. Maybe you would be calmer. Maybe you would stop over-explaining. Maybe you would stop checking for signs. Maybe you would answer with less fear. Maybe you would stop scanning other people for approval. Those little shifts are not small. They are evidence that the new self is entering daily life. And daily life is where identity gets built, not in rare peak moments, in repetition, in small decisions, in quiet reactions, in the invisible seconds nobody claps for. That is why this works when it works, because it is less about chasing one giant emotional high and more about becoming consistent in 1,000 tiny ways. At night before sleep, do not just collapse into random thinking. Use the closing of the day wisely. Review without attacking yourself. Ask, where did I hold the new state well today? Where did I drift? What pulled me back? How quickly did I return? This is not for shame, it is for clarity. Every moment you noticed the old identity and came back, count that as a win. Every time you chose a better inner sentence, that matters. Every time you faced opposite evidence and did not completely fall apart, that matters. Let yourself see progress, then go into sleep from the fulfilled state again, slowly, gently, no rush, no pressure to make it perfect. Feel the desire as done. Feel the relief of no longer reaching. Feel the steadiness of already being, because the mind beneath your waking mind keeps working while you sleep. It keeps organizing around what you most deeply impress upon it. So if you fall asleep in fear, the fear continues its work. If you fall asleep in completion, that completion continues its work. Even sleep becomes part of the process. And this is why your last thoughts are not trivial. They are seeds, they are instructions, they are seed. They are direction, so do not waste the doorway. Use it. Night after night, this builds depth. The fulfilled state stops being something you visit and starts becoming something that wraps around both your waking hours and your sleeping ones. That is when the change begins to feel total. There are really two phases in all of this. First comes practice. In this phase, you are choosing deliberately. You are remembering. You are redirecting. You are learning your patterns. You are interrupting old inner speech. You are using reminders. You are doing the morning and the night. You are catching the drift and returning again and again. It can feel clumsy at first. It can feel repetitive. Some days it feels easy. Other days it feels like you are lifting your mind with bare hands. That is normal. But if you stay with it, something beautiful begins to happen. The second phase starts quietly. One day the new state does not feel like an effort. It feels like home. You stop saying, I am trying to be secure, and you just feel secure. You stop saying, I am working on being loved, and you simply move through life as someone worth loving. You stop forcing confidence and start speaking from it. The state is no longer a task. It is identity. This is the turning point people want but often quit before reaching. They want the effortless phase while refusing the training phase. But the effortless phase is born from repetition. It is earned by returning. It is stabilized by living it often enough that it becomes natural. And once that happens, staying in the assumption all day no longer feels like discipline. It feels like truth. It feels like you. That is the real goal, not endless mental work, a genuine shift in who you are. So here's the challenge. Give this 7 full days with honesty. Not halfway, not when convenient, not only when you feel inspired. 7 days of waking into the new self before touching the world. 7 days of changing the inner conversation from lack to possession, from fear to steadiness, from waiting to already being. 7 days of checking your state through the day and returning without making it dramatic. 7 days of meeting opposite evidence without handing it your identity. 7 days of falling asleep from fulfillment instead of fear. If you do this sincerely, something will move. Maybe not all at once outside, but definitely inside. And inner movement matters more than people think. Because once the inside begins to stabilize, the outside has less and less power to throw you off. Then after 7 days, do 7 more. Then keep going. Because this is not about getting a quick emotional lift. It is about becoming someone different in the most real way. Someone who no longer lives in constant postponement. Someone who no longer checks the world every hour asking, is it here yet? Someone who has decided inwardly and lives from that decision with quiet loyalty. If you can do that, results stop feeling random. They start feeling like the natural echo of a deeper change that was only a matter of time. And let me leave you with this, because this may be the most important line of all. Mastery is not never drifting. Mastery is returning without turning the drift into a disaster. You will slip. You will have moments of doubt. You will react sometimes. You will forget. You will get pulled by old emotions, old memories, old triggers, old facts. That does not mean you are off the path. It means you are human. The only question is how long you stay gone after you notice. Do you spend hours spiraling because one moment went bad? Do you decide the whole thing is broken because one piece of evidence looked wrong? Or do you quietly come back? I drifted. I am back. That simple return, done again and again with patience, is stronger than force, stronger than fear, stronger than trying to be perfect. Over time, the return gets faster. The old state loses authority. The new one gains weight. And eventually, what once felt like practice becomes your normal way of being. Then the life you wanted no longer feels far away, because inwardly you are no longer living far away from it. You are there first in consciousness, and then life begins to reflect it in form. So make the decision not to wish, not to test it for a day and then quit. Decide to live from the fulfilled state around the clock, in quiet faith, in ordinary moments, in hard moments, in sleepy moments, in all of it. That is how the shift becomes real. That is how your world begins to answer. And that is how a desire stops being a distant hope and starts becoming the life you naturally live.